Tuesday, everybody. I'm Eric Mitchell, and this is To The Point. We talk about communication so much, and a word that we've all used in 2020 has been the word Zoom, right? Who hasn't said Zoom in a sentence? Use Zoom. I think we all use Zoom. The NBA bubble has been using the Zoom to put fans on both teams there in the bubble so you can watch. We've seen goats. Our children throughout America are using Zoom for their education. Whether you like it or not, that's what's happening. We started our first week with it, true story. We started our first week using Zoom with our 8th grader and our junior in high school, and I can tell you, it was quite stressful. It's a pain in the butt. School's still figuring it out. Students still figuring it out. You think we're frustrated as adults. Imagine being a teenager suddenly being thrown into using Zoom. Yes, you use all this sorts of technology. And I really don't worry about the teenagers using Zoom. I worry more about the little guys and gals, the little folk who are, kindergarten through like 8th grade, or not 8th grade, like 6th grade. Okay, 5th grade. Most of these guys can turn on an Xbox and PlayStation, or they use like the whole computer thing. They know what they're doing. They can just do amazing things with these little devices. But Zoom can be confusing because it's new, it's technology, and you're expecting somebody so young to sit at a desk staring at a computer and in the comforts of their own home. It becomes difficult. We really need to get kids back in school. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're not going to present you with another lecture about why we need to be back in school. But what we are going to talk about today is communication. Our first guest today is a good guest, and is coming to us. It's our first international guest that we've had in some time. Will be joining us from Australia. Good day, mate. And I promise I'll only do a shrimp on the Barbie imitation probably 5 or 6 times during the call. I probably won't. I'll get it all out now before the guest comes on. But we're going to be talking about his company and how Zoom has really jumped on. And one of the big things I'd like to talk about today is the fact that Skype seemed to have a 17-year advantage on Zoom and literally get its teeth kicked in when the pandemic struck. And what's also interesting to note before we get started, and I'll dive deeper into this, is we've heard a lot about social media during the pandemic also. And in 2020, during the 2020 election, the TikTok has become a big taboo topic, right? As of this recording, we still don't know who actually is going to own that and if it's going to survive. We all know that the Trump administration has given a drop-dead date for TikTok to be acquired or will be banned in America, which will lead to a whole new news story. But also keep in mind Zoom, the product that we're all also using, is Chinese owned and operated, which makes it interesting because we don't have any security risks. In fact, they're going out of their way to make sure that Zoom is a very secure platform. So it will be interesting today to talk about this. So hopefully, for at least this first guest, we keep your attention as we talk about Zoom and understanding how these communication devices are the wave of the future. Now, many of us have worked remote during our careers, and this is nothing new. But for many, just like I led with students and a lot of people who were in corporate America that were going to the high rises in the big cities like Chicago, New York, Dallas, and other places, LA especially, those don't exist anymore. People aren't going there. People aren't going back to work. You even see it in the Silicon Valley where Google announced people won't return until the earliest will be summer of 2021. Now, JP Morgan did announce that by September, after the recording of this, you're right. So the first, I think it's September 24th, actually. So a couple days away. September 24th, JP Morgan essential employees are due back in the office. So we've got a great show for you coming this way. Coming to us from Australia, the wonderful Danny May will be joining us. So stay tuned. When we come back, we will talk more about Zoom and learn about how this form of communication is changing the world. Stay tuned. And we're back. As always, this is To The Point. I'm your host, Eric Mitchell. Great guest coming to us from Australia today. I promise we'll keep my dingo babies and my Crocodile Dundee comments to a minimum. But we are talking about something that I love talking about, which is SaaS, or software as a service. And we're going to talk a little bit about Zoom and communication and how translation is so big, because we are doing, as the world is changing and so is the business world, the platforms that we use need to become, as bilingual as ourselves. And as everyone knows in the world, America kind of screws everything up, from the way that we spell things, because it's our version of English, which is not the best, to just about everything else. So we have an amazing guest joining us today from Australia. So welcome to the show, Mr. Danny May. Danny, welcome to the show, bud. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to see you in the future. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's always
Yeah.
Maybe someday you guys will figure out the winning lottery scores and tell them to me. That never worked. That joke was old like years ago. But it is funny talking to somebody from Australia. I never thought I would have a lot in common with you guys, but we just got done with really bad fires here on the West Coast. And so it's been odd talking to my friends in Australia, and they're like, yeah, we know how bad it is. We totally get the staying indoors and the smoke. I mean, and your guys' fires lasted longer than us. We're complaining about 10 days of fire and smoke, and you guys had what felt like forever days of smoke. So, just anyways. But
yeah, it was bad. But no, we got through it.
It was bad. Now we're better, and now you guys just have the same things you always worry about: crocodiles and great white sharks. I mean, that's what we think of when we think of Australia. So I mean,
don't forget the snakes and spiders.
You guys have every bad creature that ever exists. If there's a nightmare, it lives in Australia. Yeah. I'm just like, yep. It's like there's parts of you. When I went to Australia, funny story, folks. I know the folks at home are like, oh, great, they're gonna go on a tangent. But I remember when I went to Australia, they were like, I was like, what about the other part of the country? They're like, nobody goes there, and there's a reason. I was like, then we flew over it, and I was like, okay, I see why. Nobody needs to be out there. There's like nothing out there. It's like, it's worse than Crocodile Dundee empty. So, anyways, so Danny, I want to thank you for joining us today. So let's talk about what your platform does. I led off the show talking about Zoom. As you know, Zoom kind of came onto the scene. I mean, it's been around for a lot of us for a long time. We've been using it, those of us that use SaaS. And when I say SaaS, I'm not being sassy, folks. I'm talking about software as a service. Big S, little a, big S, SaaS. And so in 2020, we've seen Zoom just jump out. Everybody across the world is using Zoom. And your product is unique because you offer translation services in the chat. So when did you guys make that pivot? Was it before COVID or during COVID that you really jumped in and decided to make this big change to help out Zoom, as I'm sure there's a big calling for translation of services in the chat box?
Yeah. So we made the pivot before COVID, 18 months ago. So we're really focused on consumer products. And then we've seen the need for enterprises to have the ability to be able to communicate with their customers, but also when they're talking to each other. There's a lot of cross-border communication now with, especially during COVID side of it. So we just enabled that. We have the ability to provide our solution to Zoom and amongst others to help people communicate freely and get the point across. I guess that's the real big key. When two people are speaking a second language or typing a second language, there can be miscommunication. So our solutions just come in to bridge that gap.
Oh, awesome. So let me ask you, were you surprised to see Zoom take off as much as it has in 2020? It's become the platform, which is funny because we're recording this on a platform I'm about ready to make fun of, is Skype. Skype had a 17-year head start on Zoom and literally had its teeth kicked in within moments. I mean, literally the only people I know who are still using Skype are media folks, and even media outlets are moving over to Skype. And the biggest problem with Skype, just to be brutally honest, was quality control with keeping the high resolution cameras going, because that's all we really care about is high resolution and connectivity. Zoom already has that. I love my Zoom account. Shout out Zoom, sponsor me. And you see that, but why do you think Skype got beat so bad? I mean, Skype's something that we all used. I mean, those of us who've been in anything in the cloud know about it, love it. I mean, it's always been the thing that we've gone to. Why do you think Skype has lost this battle so quickly with Zoom?
I think it's simplicity. You mentioned a few points there. Connectivity, when I was, I still, again, we're using Skype now. And when we do use it, there is still the connectivity issue and bandwidth, high quality resolution of videos. But the simplicity of how Zoom, how easy it is to activate an account, go on there, set a call up, send a link to someone, and they join. I think that's what really, and it was really focused from, their business at start off was enterprise focused. But during COVID, schools, there's what dinner parties, drink parties, and all that type of stuff now. It's just because it's so simple for people of everyday life to use.
Yeah, I like that because I think that's key. I mean, one of the things that I've always said, that's why I've always been drawn to SaaS in the cloud platforms as a whole, is they're so easy to use. The ability to just log on, you don't have to download a lot of software. It's very simple. And it's still fun in 2020 to say the cloud and watch your friends still look up to the sky and go, what the heck are you looking at? I'm not telling you to put it up there. I'm telling you to put it in something. Do you see, here's a question I'm just asking everybody that works in biz, especially that you work in this platform side where you're, translating and helping out these corporations, because they're, at least here in America, I don't see a lot of businesses returning to offices. It's cheaper to have folks remote. Some of the biggest companies in America have announced they're either not returning to offices or not returning until late in 2021, just to make sure COVID is completely on its way, waving goodbye to it. So do you see business translating to more using some platforms like Zoom as more as a daily use moving forward? Or do you see people kind of returning back to business? Like, what's going on in your neck of the woods where you see it there in Australia? Are you guys returning to the office? I mean, you guys can't even leave your country. I mean, from what I understand, There's some places you guys can't even travel state to state. So what are you seeing?
Oh yeah, you're exactly right. We can't leave the country. We can't even go up to New South Wales. We can't go to Queensland because of the border restriction. But what I'm seeing is it's sort of a slow trajectory coming back to the office, moving forward, and especially probably for our region, we are in the middle of nowhere. Like, for us to get somewhere overseas, it's a minimum 8-hour flight. So I think, with Zoom and platforms like that, people are going to continue using it because cost effectiveness of, for us to get on a flight to do a business meeting in Singapore or China, it's an 8-10 hour flight plus, you're there for a week. So the cost effectiveness of it, and people are really starting to, pre-COVID, I think it was the main issue was people didn't believe it could happen like this, if that makes sense. They just didn't think people could work remotely and do a lot of things over Zoom. It had to be a face-to-face. Mm-hmm. During COVID, that's sort of brought it back. I think a lot of people are really going to continue using Zoom, and the more important meetings will start to go and meet face-to-face.
So with your platform, let me ask you this, and this is something that just when I was reading about you and your company, have you seen an uptick on Zoom for that request for more translations across the board? Is it something that businesses are actually going, you know what, we need to do that? Because I know here you can run into that. There's so many different people we work with, especially in our world in the media. There is a translation issue, especially when you deal with anything that's coming from Southeast Asia, especially. There is a huge, yes, I know English is the modern language, but sometimes it's difficult. Especially Americans, we talk in such slang compared to the Australians and the English who actually speak English, or whatever you want to call it. We don't. Yeah. We speak our own language. We spell favorite. We even had to shorten the word favorite. We didn't need that U in there. Take it out. We're Americans. We're just lazy. But have you seen an uptick with your platform?
Yeah, we have. And it's more so during COVID, but it's because, not even large organizations, it's actually just business in general. The communication. So we've had companies here in Australia say we don't need it. We talk English. As you said, we speak English, but 17% of the population don't speak English. So they're really limiting what they can do, and especially in America, it's even Spanish and it's very diverse. We've got diverse cultures. So the uptake has been, we launched it 6-7 weeks ago. So there has been a good uptake, and the price, we're $5 a month, unlimited use. So you can use it as many times as you want. So we made it as cheap as a cup of coffee. Yeah. So, and that's, second, people speaking the English as their second language to a second language, there's a breakdown in communication. So using our solution, there's no breakdown. They get to the point. Meetings are done faster, or messaging is done faster, and business can move on.
Awesome. So when we come back from the break here, Danny, we're going to talk about exactly what you talked about, and I love that you brought it up, your price point. And I think that's something people need to understand when we talk about software as a service, how important that is. And I know a lot of businesses are like, oh, we have to jack our prices all the way to the moon. I think that's the great thing about these software as a service platforms, SaaS platforms, is the affordability. You can actually afford these a month and put them on there so you don't have an excuse. So it fits the greatest business folks, the SMB, or the small to medium businesses. That's a perfect in their swing plane. What'd you say, $5? That's amazing. That's easy. That's less than a cup of coffee actually here in the States. So yeah, you should actually do that. So when we come back from the break, everybody, gonna learn more about translation and how you could use it for your company, talk a little bit more about SaaS, and have another great conversation. So stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. We were before the break. We were talking to Danny May in Australia and his amazing product and platform, SaaS product called Lingmo. And I promise I did not screw that up. I practiced during the break to say it correctly for you guys. Lingmo is helping translate, obviously multilingual, that's where the ling comes from, is helping folks using the chat feature within Zoom, which we're all using. And it's important because we are, especially, second language learners. And obviously, we're not all speaking English here in the world. I believe the number, I think over 70% of the world doesn't speak English. So it's a great product. So we're gonna bring Danny back on and we're gonna finish our conversation and talk a little bit more about understanding why the SaaS model works and how you can sign up to use his platform. So, Danny, as I say this, make the cameras work. Very good. So, Danny, you built Lingmo, and it's taking off. And you gave it a price point that is cheaper than a cup of coffee. And I always love it when anyone uses that catchphrase. Usually it's people who are selling, multi-level marketing things. And SaaS people, we all say it too. Because I remember at EchoSign, we were able to say, you could get this, and it was like $20 a user, $14 a user for the month.
Yeah.
And you can go sign contracts till you were blue in the face. So have you seen great success with this with small? Is it still the sweet spot for small to medium businesses to jump in on this?
Yeah. That's how we priced it. We didn't want to go too expensive to really limit the users, and we wanted to be, when we built this product out, to focus on the enterprise. We wanted to really enable small and medium businesses, not just large organizations, to have ability to translate. People have translation on their websites, and then we have platforms where you can translate on live chat as well as Zoom chat and stuff. So we wanted, and the world that we live in now is globalization. Everyone wants to be a global company. So communication is the key. So that's where the real sweet spot was for us, just to make it affordable for everyone to use and get the benefit from it.
I love that. That's so awesome, because it's funny how when we talk about any, especially in corporate America or across the globe, the global 1,000 or the global 2,000, small to medium businesses are always the focal point, and people don't understand that. And people ask me all the time, why do corporations or SaaS companies focus so much on SMB? And I'm like, because that's our bread and butter, because that's what all businesses eventually start as. You start as a company where you're like, okay, we have a budget, $5 a month to have a service like this it's a no-brainer. It's not like you have to think about it. You're like, $5. And you've seen that so many companies that have come out. I remember, I could tell you one company who's never done it and they're actually back to they actually lowered their prices. I'm sure you're familiar with Salesforce. Salesforce, if you remember, they used to be per user, like some outrageous number. And now I remember they gave us a phone call a couple months ago, and I was asking, I said, what is your pricing? We don't use them and never will, because I have a cool platform, shout out Nimble, that we use, that we actually love, great CRM. And Salesforce was like, yeah, we lowered our prices for small to medium businesses, and I chuckled. I was like, it took a pandemic, huh? And they're like, haha. And I was like, I swear to God, if Oracle calls me and drops their prices, we're going to have an issue. Sure enough, Oracle with their CRM, they called it. I'm like, okay, it's a pandemic when those two who are famous for keeping their prices high didn't do that. So before you go, tell the folks how they can learn, how they can, number one, sign up for Lingmo, because I think it's key. I know I want to do it for us because we do have folks, especially when we talk about Latin America. That's where you really lose translation. I mean, the good thing about Asia, a lot of those folks will speak, speaking English and able to write English is pretty easy. But when we talk about Latin America, that's a whole lot of people, and they all have kind of Slanglish, as I like to call it. So it's so many different dialects. How can people sign up for your product and learn more about it?
So the best way to learn more about a product is to jump on our website, lingmointernational.com. If you've got Zoom and you're using Zoom and you want to, we do a free download. So you got 3 days free trial before you're required to pay it. Just go onto the Zoom marketplace and type in Lingmo into the search and we'll pop up. And it's as easy as click a button, download it, and away you go.
Look at that. That's how easy that is. And we will, folks, just so you know, when you scroll down, if you're watching this on Biz TV or if you're watching us on YouTube or C-Suite, just scroll down and you'll see it in the description of the show. So after the show's over, go click down there, and that way you can sign up for Lingmo and learn more about Danny's amazing company. Danny, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day ahead of me. And always fun to have Australians on. I appreciate you greatly for coming on and sharing this product. We'll have to have you back on. I could talk to you all day about SaaS products because I'm just sitting here going, oh, we just talked about the freemium model. 3 days. Oh, I remember it's funny getting to that number, and I want to bring you back so we can kind of talk about how we get to that number, because there's a great debate. I remember we had this debate about 7 days, 14 days. What's the magic number? The sweets? Because people don't know that we just do it. Basically, it's all off of what we see how the buyers react to it. So it's always fun in science. But I want to thank you, Bud, for joining us today from Australia. Thank you so much, Danny May. We appreciate you, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
I again want to thank Danny May for joining us today on the show. It's so cool to have folks from down under come join us. So, hey, and you guys should be proud of me. There was 0 bad Australia jokes told by Eric. Proud of myself. It's hard when you crack bad jokes for a living. And I'm not a stand-up comic, but apparently I crack bad jokes. So, yeah, it's interesting when we talk about it. So we're going to pivot now, and we're going to move on to more mindset talk. I know we started talking about it on Monday, so we're going to continue on with it today. And our next guest that's going to be coming up, that's going to talk about the yuck kind of mindset that, oh, I don't want to do it. It's easy to get down. We just kind of got through that here in the Pacific Northwest, where already lots of regulations with COVID here. We're still in phase 1 opening, while much of the country's not. Our kids are in virtual school. Add in the fires where we shouldn't have left our house because of high air quality rates being horrible. We actually led the world for over 8 days with poor quality, actually waking up in the middle of the night and looking at our air quality. At one time, we were over 400. Let that sink in, that Singapore on a bad day is about 200. So, that being said, which is absolutely crazy, I just wanted to kind of share about that. So our guest coming up is the wonderful Lucie Mitchell. Lucie Mitchell, besides being my wife and the CEO of LifeFlip Media, is a health and wellness coach where she helps women on a journey to help them feel better about themselves and get out of that mentality. And Lucie doesn't just practice what she preaches, she actually has lived it and understands what it's like to do that. Because for many years, Lucie struggled with what she looked like in the mirror and what she really looked like, that perception that so many women fight. And you see it in the younger generation, and it was exposed in the show on Netflix, Social Dilemma, and it's concerning. So Lucie's going to join us today to talk about how you can make sure that you're keeping your mindset well and also looking out for your children out there to keep their mindset up. And she's got an interesting challenge that she's going to throw down here on the show as she's launched it to get folks involved. I believe it's about 8 weeks long challenge that she's going to be throwing down. So folks, you will want to be involved in this because it's important that we make sure we keep our mindset right. It's so easy to get down in the dumps, especially here in America, as we deal with election 2020, still coming off of COVID, just everything kind of going on. And happiness for some people, happiness for me is having sports, which makes me happy. And we just got done with week 2 of the NFL, so hopefully you're doing well. But let's yeah, it's going to be an interesting second half of the show. I'm excited. It's always good to welcome Lucie to the show. She's been on a number of times, talked about a number of topics, and it's good to have her back to talk about this topic because I definitely see it now here in later in the year. When she was on earlier, it wasn't such a big topic, but now it's pretty big. We have a lot of people talking about it. Got to get your mindset right to go into the end of the year because 2021 is just around the corner. So we're going to welcome Lucie Mitchell to the show when we come back from the break. So stay tuned. You don't want to miss it. And in the meantime, while we go to break, make sure you head over to our social media, To The Point TV on Instagram, and give us a follow and check us out on YouTube, To The Point with Eric Mitchell. See you guys after the break. Like I said, come back from the break now. We have an amazing guest. She also doubles as my wife, the CEO of LifeFlip Media, and just general badass entrepreneur, which you know we love to feature around here. So welcome to the show, To The Point, the wonderful Lucie Mitchell. Welcome to the show, Lucie. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I know you're from so far away from our downstairs studio. I know, it's fun, but it's still fun to play this way. So I've been hearing you talk about your mind funk mindset, which I love, hearing you talk about it and the folks that you help with. And I wanted to bring you on the show to talk about it because I think it's more than just your little world of Instagram that the folks who do follow you, and we'll get to what your Instagram handle is later so people can follow you. But tell everybody what there's probably a lot of people going, okay, we get it, 2020, mind funk goes really well. And we talk about it a lot here on To The Point, where people get themselves like caught up in social media, you know, especially election 2020 has basically divided our country on social media. You're never right on social media. You're going to trigger someone. So it sets people into a mind funk, job loss, all, you know, kids, and you and I both know kids stuck working or going to Zoom classes here in our home while we're trying to run a business. So tell folks what your mindset, what the mind funk mindset is. That's a mouthful. What is that exactly?
I love hearing you say it several times. So, honestly, what this is I take it back a few steps in the fact that we are I've lost count of the number of months, but we are about 6 months, I believe, into whatever we want to call this year, but basically, you know, dealing with this pandemic. And I'm even going as further as to say, if any of you live, and all of your viewers that live on the West Coast, whether it's here locally or California or even Colorado, I dealt with some fires too. We're now dealing with, you know, air quality issues and our children not being able to go to school. Now we really shouldn't leave our houses because the air quality is bad. And things like this, if you weren't already in a funk, you are definitely in one now, because yes, now you add that anytime you turn on your Instagram, your TikTok, your Facebook, CNN, whatever it is, you are being bombarded with something negative or stressful in a sense. And I'm a firm believer in there's certain actions that you can take to get you out of that mind funk, even if it is temporarily. So that's what my mind funk mindfulness is just utilizing a few simple tasks to kind of give your emotions, your mental emotions, your physical emotions a break.
I like that. That makes sense. And I think we all need that. I know we sat down together and we both didn't finish it, but we started watching that Social Dilemma show on Netflix, which is interesting. And you talk about, you know, it sets you in a mood. Like even watching it pissed you off. Like you're like, man, I get it. I use my phone, but I mean, you start justifying how you use your phone and what you need it for. And I know it's an ongoing debate in lots of homes, but what advice are you able to give folks now when it comes to social and interacting with one another? I mean, people are families. They shouldn't be divided by who they're voting for. I mean, voting used to be a private thing. You were like, hey, I'm going to go vote. This is what I'm going to do. And now it's like, you got to yell from the top of the mountain who you're voting for, who you support. You're obnoxious about it. I mean, it's to the point. It's just like these idiots that are out there saying, I'm not going to watch sports because they're kneeling. It's like, okay, I don't know why you need to tell me. You know, it's like, thank you. I don't know if you want like a pat on the back that you aren't watching sports, but you secretly are because you're talking about it. So what are you telling your clients? I know you have a nice little stable of clients and a lot of people, you know, you are an influencer in your realm. What are you telling these amazing women that you work for, these empowered women? How are you encouraging them to not get caught up in this negative mindset that social can lead you to quite quickly?
Well, you have to realize, and I have about 5 different tips that I have created that I've come up with that I have been sharing. But one thing you have to realize from a health and wellness aspect is that every time you elevate your stress levels, you are elevating your cortisol levels. And when you're elevating your cortisol levels, you're not giving your body any time, space, realm to calm down. So what that's going to do is put your body in a fight or flight mode. And as human beings, whether we are men or women, that fight or flight mode is hold on to the fat, hold on to the stress, hold on to the tension, because we don't know what's going to happen next. So you hear people talking about gaining the COVID-10, the COVID-15, the COVID-20, and hopefully not beyond. And a lot of that has to do with not utilizing some of these mindset rituals that I'm going to explain, but also just staying in that constant stressful state. So one idea I have, and most people, including you, will not like this, but is a digital detox. It is literally taking, whether it's, and I get it, a lot of us right now, especially we're working from home, are reliant on the fact that we have to use our computers. We have to be on social media, whether you're in network sales or whether you're in any type of technology, or this is just how you're communicating. Even our children. This is even most important for our children right now because the majority of them are learning digitally right now. So what is most important is to give your eyes, your mind, your body a break from that. Can you do it for an hour? Can you challenge yourself and do it half the day? If it's you have to log in for work, okay, so log in just for work and then turn everything off and walk away. Pick up a book, have a conversation, meditate, hydrate your body. I mean, there's a myriad of things you could do that don't involve your phone. I mean, if you stop and you think about it, how many times are you connected with your family members at a mealtime? That should tell you right there, if you can't put your phone down and have a how was your day, even if everybody is stuck in the home, that's a bigger problem. But usually what's going to happen is that your body is also being exposed to mass amounts of blue light. And that in itself is very, very stressful on your body, on your eyes. You're going to end up with tension, headaches, migraines. You're also going to become very disconnected from human interaction. So I just say, give yourself a break. The election is still going to be there. TikTok is still going to be there. All the negativity that we're surrounded by is still going to be there. But if you give your body that break, an hour, couple hours, 24 hours, you will feel so much better for it. And if you can make that a consistent habit, it kind of blends into my second step about mindful eating. Another way that you could get out of the mindfuck is how often are you glued to the television and you're just eating? You want to know what's going on in sports or what's going on with the election or maybe you don't want to know, but you have to know for work. So you've got to be able to talk about it the next day. Not only are you not giving your digestive system a break in order to process, you're inhaling a lot of air. And this is a show that's out there, but what happens when you inhale too much air? You're gassy, you're bloated, you're uncomfortable, you're in a bad mood. Again, you're in a mind funk. But if you stopped and you took the time, and I've had several people say this is an interesting way to look at it, but it's something that I learned and that helped me in my own journey. But as if you stopped and you looked at that meal, no matter how it was prepared, whether it was in the microwave, whether you're out to eat, or whether your wife or your husband cooked it for you, and you stopped and you really looked at the food and you relished the fact, or you enjoyed the fact that A, you have a hot meal in front of you. B, you have teeth in your mouth that are enabling you to chew this food. You have a healthy digestive system that is going to process and give your body the nutrients. All of these actions are what is involved in mindful eating. And it makes a huge difference. A, you will not consume as much because now you're slowing down and you're paying attention to chewing the food. You're savoring the flavors. Somebody, whoever it was, went to a lot of effort to put that meal together. Even the person who invented the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I mean, if that's what you happen to be eating, think about like who came up with this concept. It just takes your mind away from all the chaos going around you, and you're able to really hone in and focus, and you're actually helping your body calm down in order to process the food. Which again would then lead right into another mind funk method I have about, are you really being mindful and moving your body? You're sitting in front of this television, the computer, your phone, you're sitting. When are you moving your body and taking time to exercise? And not because you have to, but because you get to, because you want to. Not because of out of guilt. I wanted to make sure I wrote this down because it is so important. We live in a day and age where we're punishing ourselves to work out. But instead, if you took the time to just really pay attention and just don't work out while looking at your phone, just hone in on what your body is able to do, I think it would really change your mindset. And then the other two things that I have that kind of go into like hand in hand is visualize how you want your year to be different. Make a vision board, visualize some goals, and while doing that, if you practice breath work where you just calm down and slowly breathe in and out, especially when you're tense in any of these actions, you will notice a huge difference not only in your stress levels, but in your overall thinking of what's going on around you. And that's what I got for you.
Outstanding. So when we come back from the break, Lucie, if you'll stay with us just for a couple more minutes, we're going to find out how folks can connect with you and how you can help more. And I got a couple questions about Mind Funk. So when we come back from the break, we're going to cover a little bit more about Mind Funk. Welcome back, folks, to this Tuesday segment. We've been talking with Lucie Mitchell about Mind Funk Mindset. That's a tough doozy, but we're going to bring Lucie back. Got a couple extra questions there. Mind you, if you have some questions that you want answered, remember, go ahead, tweet at To The Point TV. Go ahead, give us a tweet if you have a question about Mindset Funk or want to learn about any of our guests today that we had, the wonderful Danny May and, of course, Lucie Mitchell. So, Lucie, let me ask you this. You were talking about a vision board, and a lot of our guests talk about vision boards and talk about, having a positive mindset and how their mindset leads to just amazing things happening in their life. So can you expand a little bit more for folks at home, understanding we've all heard about vision boards, but how do they actually work for adults? We always talk about kids doing vision boards, but how do they work for adults?
Oh, no problem. I actually have been doing vision boards for the last 2 years, and I didn't understand them at first because I think I just didn't attach the concept. But ideally, this is something visual. It's really based around visualization. So depending on your learning style, if you're auditory or you are kinesthetic or a visual person, that's really where it's going to come down to, like, just changing your mindset about what's going on. We can all sit here and think that things are bleak, and maybe there's a lot of outside influences that we can't control. But if you stopped and you looked at, okay, what can I control, and then create a vision for that. So these are great actions to do, say, like before you're going into a big meeting. They want to correlate it to the work environment. And honestly, you go into any tech company, you're going to go into a meeting room that has a whiteboard or a window, and you're going to find sticky notes, you're going to find actions. That's a vision board. That's a goal board. And that's what I'm talking about, is like when we are in a funk, we think things are bleak and they're hopeless, and how is anything going to change? Well, map out your future, map out how you want it to change. This could be something that's in a month, in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year. Just because things are not looking great around you doesn't mean you still can't control the trajectory of your own future. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about visualization, is just tapping in, basically just taking moments of your day or of your time and sit with your own thoughts and really see it in your mind what it is you want to achieve. It could be happier health. It could be to cure COVID. It could be to go on a vacation finally. It could be to have peace in your home because your kids are running. It could be anything. But if you visualize it, you're making it that much more of a possibility for yourself, which will change your mindset.
I love it. So folks, that was Lucie Mitchell talking about Mind Funk Mindset, and we were just talking about vision boards. So before you go, Lucie, if you could tell us real quick the best way for folks to get a hold of you. Obviously, we want folks to follow you on Instagram. I think that's your primary best place to follow you is on IG. So if you could tell folks how they could get a hold of you, go ahead. This is the fun part of the show where you get to plug away. So feel free to make sure you plug away. And everybody, again, if you're looking to find more information, if you missed what Lucie's saying here and you didn't catch it on the flash, make sure you check us out on C-Suite TV and in our YouTube channel. We will have it right there for you. But if you're watching on Biz TV, this is where you want to have your pen and paper. So Lucie, take it away. Tell folks how they can get a hold of you.
Obviously, you can send me an email at fierceandbeautifulfit, actually fierceandbeautiful.fit@gmail.com. My IG is actively _Lucie with an IE _Mitchell. And again, you can also reach out to me on my website, which is www.luciemitchell.com. And again, that is with an IE, not a Y.
I love it. So, Lucie, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always great to have you on the show. I know everybody's like, you have your wife on your show. I'm like, absolutely. You know what you're doing. You are a rock star. You are a part of our amazing list of folks that just absolutely crush it in the business, because you do run LifeFlip Media. You do run our crazy household with our 2 teenage children who are remote learning, and we're both like, who's all on the internet. I think they hate Zoom more than we do. So I think people need to understand that. We are a husband and wife team, and we're going to have you back. I think we should do a show kind of understanding that we run a successful business. You run several successful businesses, but it works really well. I think we've done this for the last 5 years, and it's great to have you on the show. So any women out there looking for mentorship or somebody, Lucie is the person to go to. I'm not just saying this because I'm her husband, but she's amazing. She truly is a rock star. She overcame a lot to get where she's at today, and trust me, she's probably been where so many of you are at right now, where you're like, I can't do it. It's hard. I mean, Lucie was one time the person, I'll never sell anything. Yeah, that's what she says, and she was still a rock star. So Lucie, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you. You too.
So it was great having Lucie on the show today, and Danny May, 2 amazing guests, 2 different worlds, but you kind of see mindset and being successful in business. They go hand in hand, and it does deal with weight loss and all this stuff. So if you do have a question for any of our guests and you missed any of the information, feel free to message us on social media, or of course, you know that you can always email us. We talk about it all the time, but you can always message us there, and we'll gladly connect you with any of our guests on our show. That's important to us here at To The Point, making sure folks are able to connect with any of our guests, and our guests are accessible. We're excited. We have so many amazing guests in store for you over the next month. It's amazing who we continue to book and put in front of you. People want to come on our show, and that's the important thing that we want to continue doing. While we do give opinions and slants that some people may not understand and will have a tough time, like we're a tough pill to swallow sometimes, we bring you the opinion of the average, everyday American. Person who wakes up like I do with 2 beautiful children in my home, making sure that they're going to school and running a business and making sure my employees are taken care of. I am just like everyone else. My wife is just like everyone else. We're average Joes, and we bring our shows for the other average Joes, so you don't have to think we're going to have some political slant because somebody's paying us an extreme amount of money to give you that slant. That's never going to happen here at To The Point. I just want to make sure everybody out here knows exactly where we come from. So, as always, if you would like to be a guest on To The Point and you're like, this is perfect for me, or you know someone who would like to be a guest on To The Point, make sure that you reach out and email us at hello@tothepointtv.com. That's hello@tothepointtv.com. weeknights.com. You can always reach us on any of our socials. We're everywhere where social good is taking place. You can check us out on our Twitter at To The Point TV, our Instagram, To The Point TV. On Facebook, we are To The Point with Eric Mitchell, and on YouTube, where we always love for you to go smash that subscribe button. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button, liking, and hit that bell so you can be notified anytime that we go live. That way you know when the latest episode drops, so you don't have to go search for it on our TV shows. You can always go to our YouTube channel and know that they will always be there for you to be able to jump in and see what you've missed. So that's important to us. Make sure you go follow us there. As always, you can go check us out on Biz TV, where we air weekdays. That's right, weekdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. That's 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on the amazing network Biz TV, with amazing shows on here. Make sure you check out the full selection of shows that are on this amazing network. You don't want to miss it. It's important, folks. Support Biz TV and support the shows that are on here. We have a full slate of shows. Start early in the morning, go all night. Make sure you stick it in and tell all your friends exactly where Biz TV is. As always, on behalf of the entire team here at To The Point, the wonderful executive producer Jordan Gelber, executive producer Marina Mera, producer Madison Mitchell, and music by the amazing and talented veteran team of the Space Force Boys, I'm Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be strong, be smart, and God bless America.